Greetings and salutations, dear viewers. Welcome back once again to the realm of Final Fantasy XIV. There's a couple things that I didn't get the chance to get to in time back during 2.3, so even though we're in 2.4, I still need to go back and cover a couple things. Specifically, the Extreme Mode Primals. Today, we're looking at Ramuh Extreme. Ramuh Extreme, at least at the moment, you don't have a lot of hope of beating in the Duty Finder. You may have a chance, but you certainly don't have a lot of hope. Especially considering if you get into a farming group or a win group, it will still take you a good number of attempts before you can actually get that win. Just gotta iron out those problems. But if you do manage to find a group that can actually get its stuff together and can pull it off, the mechanics of the fight generally all work together with each other. There aren't a lot of individual mechanics where this is one thing you have to worry about and that's it. Once you're done, you're done. You may be wondering why there are a number of numbers over all of our heads. Well, I'll get to that in a moment. The first thing I'll point out, though, is that Ramuh, though he can most certainly be tanked, he does not move. However, all of his attacks are both ranged and an AoE, so be very careful that whoever has hate, i.e. the tank, doesn't get anybody else hit. You'll also notice we're doing the one tank method for this fight, as opposed to two tanks doing the tank swap mechanics, or doing the tank swap mechanic. Having three healers is sort of necessary in order to compensate for that. But more on that in a minute. With that said, the fight can begin proper. Now, one of the first attacks that you'll see Ramuh using is Thunderstorm. You'll see a ring appear around a number of people within the party, as well as a few rings appear randomly out in the area. These aren't too huge a deal. Obviously, if one person is being targeted, they will be hit by it. No questions asked. Now, if they are hit by it, it will do a pretty fair chunk of damage. Potentially more than half of their life, or less, depending on another mechanic in the fight. But rest assured, you do not want to hit one person with more than one ring, or it will probably kill them. So just make sure when it happens, everybody spreads out enough that one person isn't getting hit by two overlapping rings. And then you can go back to wailing on them. Now another attack you saw right there is Thunder Spark, which Thunder Spark is an AoE directly around Ramuh, and of course you would think, why is this such a big deal then? It looks like it's simple enough to step back and get away from, and for the most part it is. However, something else comes up a little bit later on to complicate that matter a little. Now, as the fight rages on, you'll eventually see him using a skill called Chaotic Strike. Now, two people will have a target put over them for this. You'll notice the person with the not two over them, the bard, or one of the bards, was standing very far away from Ramuh for this. I think it's guaranteed that the person farthest from Ramuh will always be one of the two targeted by this, and the other one is random. So, the bard stands as far away as possible in order to bait this into hitting someone a little more convenient. Now we have an A marker on the ground here, and when you get targeted by Chaotic Strike, you need to run up to that A marker and get in it. This way, both of you are bound together, or not bound together, both of you are grouped together and easy to locate. This is the purpose of the numbers. You see, that's immediately followed by Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm is the only way to free the two people hit by Chaotic Strike. You see, once Chaotic Strike is done casting, the two people with the targets over them are bound in place. And very shortly after they're bound in place, they will start walking very slowly towards Ramuh, to the point that you're eventually standing within his hitbox, doing nothing but standing there. If you recall that AoE from earlier that hit directly around Ramuh, that will kill you. But back to Thunderstorm, you see both of these people are bound, and the only way to free them is to make sure they do get hit by Thunderstorm. This is what the numbers are for. The person with the lowest number is the highest priority to freeing them with Thunderstorm. However, if number 1 isn't being targeted by Thunderstorm, it falls on number 2 to run in. If number 2 as well isn't being hit by Thunderstorm, it falls on number 3, and so on. Or, potentially, if, say, number 1 was the other person hit by Chaotic Strike, he can't very well free himself, so it falls on number 2. And if number 2 cannot, it falls on number 3. So you can see here number 1 was targeted by it, so he's running over to make sure we all get hit. The purpose of the numbers is also, then, to make sure that only one Thunderstrike is hitting them. Now with that said, on to yet another mechanic in this fight. You'll see after Thunderstorm goes off, a number of electrical orbs are floating about the arena. The more of these orbs are floating around the arena, the more damage Ramuh's attacks do. I'm running out of the way to get this one here because we want as few of them on the field at the moment as possible, and it didn't look like anybody else was going for it. But these orbs, then, not only, while they're on the field, do they make all of Ramuh's attacks do more damage, and in turn, if you have too many of them, the Thunderstrike will straight up kill you, especially if you get hit by 2 of them. More importantly than that, Ramuh has a few tank-only moves. Specifically, one that should be hitting only the tank that unbuffed will do tens of thousands of damage. In turn, you want to go out and collect as many of these as possible to make his attacks do less. The trouble with that, however, is once you collect one of them, you get a debuff put on you. This debuff put on you will, at least at the moment, not do much. It's a buff of electroconductivity. Electroconductivity will effectively just make it so you take less damage from electrical attacks. That sounds wonderful. You can get 3 stacks of this, which will grant you the Surge Protection status, which will actually let the tank survive through a number of Ramuh's attacks. If you take any more than 3 stacks, the problems start arriving. If you get any more than that, you get a status effect on you called Overcharged. An overcharged status effect will grant you even more time with the stacks up to take negligible damage from Ramuh's attacks, but it will also greatly reduce the impact of healing spells on you, which is why we need 3 healers to keep this tank alive, since the tank is spending almost the entire fight in this overcharged status. It's especially helpful with the tank collecting the orbs necessary to stay in this state if the tank makes a macro saying when they're going out to collect one, so everyone else knows not to collect them, and another one when they're done, letting everyone know to quickly run out and gather all the remaining orbs. Now, at about 60% of his health, Ramuh will summon a number of adds around the arena, 6 of them specifically. These gray arbiters will continuously attempt to cast a spell called Increased Sentence. If any one of them gets that spell off 10 times, you will wipe to Ramuh's ultimate attack. So, in general, you move directly south, kill that gray arbiter, and move clockwise around, killing all of them, and hopefully you've got the DPS to take him down, to take them all down in time. This is a DPS check. On top of all of that, while you're doing this, the Grey Arbiters will randomly shoot out bolts of electricity you don't especially want to be standing in. And to make matters even more complicated, almost immediately after the Grey Arbiters spawn, Ramuh will cast Chaotic Strike, which will then hit 2 people with Chaotic Strike, so they have to run into position. And they then need to be freed. This is rough on melee, because the melee will have run back to where that Grey Arbiter is to the south of the arena. If the melee does not get targeted by Chaotic Strike, they will need to find a safe spot to not be hit by everyone else's Thunderbolts. You may think this not a big deal, but one mention that I have neglected to mention about Thunderstrike is when it goes off, almost immediately after, it electrifies the water that you can see lining the arena. So when it goes off, you want to not be standing in the water. With everyone crowded around the far south border and me unable to stand in the water, it's very difficult for melee to get out of the way in time. Personally, I've decided that no matter what happens, it's simply better and safer for me to eat the damage and stay standing in the water. It's going to hurt, and I'll be right there ready with Second Wind to help curb some of the damage. But if I run up onto shore, other people are going to panic and start running around. I have trouble finding a safe spot anyway, and to be honest, every time I have attempted running up, I cause more harm than good. So I'll just stand in the water and eat that first one, which then is used to free the 2 people who are hit by Chaotic Strike. Thankfully, this time, I was actually one of the ones targeted by Chaotic Strike, so that makes my life a fair amount easier because it gives me somewhere to run to. So the first Grey Arbiter down, and we simply move clockwise around. Now you've got about enough time to take down the second Grey Arbiter. You can see me getting on land here because I want to get hit by Thunderstorm and not get hit by the electric water. You have about enough time to kill this second Grey Arbiter before you have to worry about Ramuh casting Chaotic Strike again. So be very, very aware of what's going on, especially as a melee here, because you're standing so far away from the A mark that you need to be ready to move at a moment's notice if you have any intention of getting to that A mark in time. You can see I was targeted. I didn't move immediately, but I moved pretty quick and still didn't quite make it. Now we killed the next Grey Arbiter. Now this 4th Grey Arbiter, I think, at this point. Once again, you have to be ready for Chaotic Strike. Especially since you're standing pretty far out, you may be farther out than the Bard there, who's attempting to eat Chaotic Strike. I got out of it this time, so I get to continue DPSing the Grey Arbiter. I don't have to run back in to try and eat that, but I need to get off of the water before Thunderbolt goes off. And with that, the final one is down, and we can go back up and Despite what a lot of Primals do, where they're actually immune while they're doing their ultimate spell, you can continue beating on Ramuh. And now, at this point of the fight, you're past one of the major hurdles of the fight. From this point on, there's only really one new mechanic added, and that is Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder will randomly target 2 people. As you can see here, 2 people were indeed targeted by it, and Rolling Thunder works exactly the same as it works in the hard mode of Ramuh. Both people that are affected by Rolling Thunder have a debuff put on them that makes it so they will hurt themselves whenever they do an action. Which means, say, if I'm attacking Ramuh and I get tethered to somebody else with this, I need to completely stop attacking Ramuh or I will kill myself. From here, one of the 2 tethered people needs to go out and collect enough of the orbs that are left in the arena to get the superconductive status effect. That will remove the tether from both of them, presumably by letting the electricity pass through them into the ground, or some such. This then is also where the numbers come in handy, because you need to make sure the tank has enough orbs laying around, so you need to collect as few as possible, yet you still need to be collecting any excess, or you may just die outright. And you certainly don't want both tethered people out collecting orbs and eating up orbs that don't need to be eaten up. So that's where the higher numbered person, as opposed to the lower numbered person who had priority before, the higher numbered person here is always the one to collect the orbs. If you are not numbered, a person with a number collects the orbs. So you can see I have no number, and in turn I have no responsibility in breaking anyone free from Chaotic Strike, even though I've done this many times and had such a responsibility before. But should I be tethered here, I need to move away from Ramuh, stop attacking, and simply wait for the other person to break the tether. Now this gets complicated at this point, and is very much on the tank's shoulders as to whether or not you can succeed at this point. And this is where doing this fight with 2 tanks actually gets much more complicated, because the 2 tanks need to do a very good job of communicating with each other, making it clear what they need to do, and adapting to the situation as needed. Because maybe there aren't any orbs out for the tanks to collect. Maybe one of the tanks needs to go into the superconductive state to just buy time for the Rolling Thunder people to collect their orbs, and for the next group of orbs to come out for the off-tank to then pick up. It gets complicated, and it is the leading cause of failure in groups that I've seen with 2 tanks, anyway. With only 1 tank always staying in the superconductive state, it's not nearly as big an issue. Except that the tank just died. That's a piece of good news. Now, normally, because I've been DPSing the boss for such a huge amount of time, I have hate on the tank, or I have hate on Ramuh. So, I'm going to go over and I'm going to tank Ramuh for a moment, and hope I don't die. I, however, do not have the superconductive state, which means Shock Strike there is just going to do 18,000 damage to me, and there's not a lot I can do about it. But on the upside, I did manage to hero that one up. I had hate on Ramuh long enough to not let everybody else get killed, which let the tank get brought back up, and let the tank grab the buffs, so he's now back in the superconductive state, and the fight continues on. You can see, once again, I am tethered, so I'm not attacking Ramuh. I'm going to wait back for Knack XI, Knack Z over there to collect the orbs. His responsibility, he's the one with the number. Now, not only do I take damage if I'm attacking Ramuh here, but also I'm taking a very low damage over time. So if you don't break that fast enough, you will simply die. Now at round about 30% of his HP, Ramuh decides to mix it up just a little bit more. And he does this by bringing back the Gray Arbiters. Only this time, you can't kill them. There are only 3 of them. They cannot be killed. They simply float about the arena and occasionally do their shock strike thing towards the center of the arena, towards Ramuh. It's just another thing that you have to dodge. It doesn't do an unreal amount of damage if you get hit by it, but the healers have enough to worry about at this point that you really just want to avoid it. All this time, of course, you're still dealing with Chaotic Strike, you're still dealing with Thunderstorm, you're still dealing with Rolling Thunder, you're still dealing with the tank needing to go out and collect enough orbs to stay in the superconductive state as he is here. It's the final phase of the fight, but this is a fight that simply gets more and more and more complicated. Now you see there, I noticed that I had Rolling Thunder on me, but it completely missed me that I had Chaotic Strike on me. I did not run into position, so thank you to number 1 there, at least I think it was number 1, that noticed that I was not in position, but still moved over to free me. Whenever someone gets hit by Chaotic Strike, they can't always 100% of the time get in position. So simply be aware and pay attention to that marker and see where those people end up. If you've got a group that can hold together through thick and thin, and can make it through the hard-fought final section, you can take out Ramuh. Your reward is an item level 110 item. It's potentially a ring or a weapon. But there you have it. It's a rough fight, especially near the end, but hold on tight, keep your cool, and thus ends Ramuh Extreme.